were Trump to lose next week, but potentially many law enforcement officials fear violence.
Yeah.
Yes, Joe.
But, Jonathan, you have Donald Trump's own people. You even have people like Charlie Kirk freaking out now, telling the truth, saying the numbers are looking terrible in Pennsylvania, that right now Trump is on his way to losing. I think it's a Politico story that was showing what Kirk and others were saying, because the early voting, according to them and many others, not going their way. Women are going out and they are voting, and two things are happening at once. The Harris campaign is getting more confident by the day that things are breaking their way in the blue wall states. And the Trump campaign has two things happening. One, Donald Trump is starting, things are going well in Pennsylvania for Harris, because he's starting to claim that, oh my gosh, they're trying to steal the vote from me. Oh, that's on one hand. On the other hand, Charlie Kirk and other people attached to the Trump campaign, are big supporters of the Trump campaign, are literally freaking out, saying publicly, we're going to lose if the voting patterns continue this way.
Yeah, you're seeing a false confidence being put forward by the Trump campaign, in part because they want to appease the candidate who doesn't like to hear bad news. But behind the scenes, there is some growing worry. I've talked to some people connected to the campaign the last day or two. The Trump folks were feeling much better about this a few weeks ago than they are today. Polling suggests that some of the undecided late-breaking voters may be going for Harris. Early voting data, Joe, as we've discussed this week on this show, it can be deceptive. It's not always clear what it means, but certainly there are signs, at minimum, that it's going well for the Harris campaign, particularly in those blue wall states, that they feel they're feeling increasingly confident about their chances there. Look, they acknowledge it's going to be really tight. They do live in fear, as Democrats have since 2016, that there will be a late-breaking day of vote for Trump. But at least to this point, they haven't seen that happen in the early voting, Willie. We're seeing, and Trump is, and I think that's also the other part of this is, Joe mentioned his Truth Social post the other day, claiming fraud in Pennsylvania. No evidence of that. I think we're seeing Trump's outbursts and violent rhetoric increase more and more. What does that usually show us? Behind the scenes, that means he's getting worried. The Truth Social is sort of a window into his soul, what he really thinks. And there is a growing anxiety there at Mar-a-Lago that this might be slipping away from him. And let's remember, were he to lose, suddenly all the criminal cases come back. And that's adding to the pressure, I'm told.
Yeah, we saw even yesterday in the state of Georgia, John, the amplification by some people who support Donald Trump, some people around Donald Trump, of a completely fabricated story about Haitian migrants voting multiple times in Georgia. The Republican Secretary of State, the Republican election officials quickly dismissed it, said this is from a Russian troll farm. It's a lie. Don't believe it. But we can expect to see much more of those lies amplified by Trump and the people around him in the next few days. So, Sam Stein, we talk a lot about not grading Donald Trump on a curve. It's not something we do. A lot of people still do that. Unfortunately, not giving him a pass. But let's pretend that this is a normal presidential campaign, and this is the final weekend before Election Day. And just go down the list just yesterday of the things that this candidate, the man who wants to return to the White House, did. He called effectively for the execution of Liz Cheney, as the headline in Drudge says. He wants guns pointed at her. He said he's going to sue CBS for $10 billion for routine editing of an interview with Kamala Harris.
It's filed.
He was in the state of New Mexico yesterday, which he said he won twice. He lost twice, including last time by double digits, spending part of his time there. He said that RFK Jr. would have a prominent role as a health official in his administration. Think about the implications of that. Some people saying RFK Jr. would make measles great again due to his views on vaccines. And most importantly, perhaps, as we've been saying, ceding the ground for his lie again that the election was stolen from him if he loses.
You actually undersold it. Seriously. He didn't say pointing at Liz Cheney. He said shooting at Liz Cheney. He didn't say RFK Jr. would just be looking over health. He said women's health. We have Elon Musk coming out there saying repeatedly folks should expect economic suffering in the short term should Trump win. We have Mike Johnson opening up the idea of going back at the Affordable Care Act. I mean, it's a remarkable close to a campaign. I was struck by the fact, obviously it's insane that Trump said what he said about Liz Cheney. They're going to say, well, he's just talking about she should, know the consequences of war before, voting for it. Whatever. Not the idea that you would sort of imagine her being shot at is, I think, the problem here. But I was also struck by the fact that he was being interviewed on stage by Tucker Carlson. A normal campaign would not be doing that. They would be trying to expand the coalition. They wouldn't be saying to women, you know what, I'm going to protect you whether you want it or not. This is a campaign that has been rigid, overconfident, hyper-focused on one sliver of the electorate. The theory of the case is they could turn out young men voters, and that they're just going to go time and time again, and that they can act in a way that would, appease them, but also alienate everyone else. And this is the big test right now. And when Joe mentions Charlie Kirk freaking out, the reason Charlie Kirk is freaking out is because the early indications, these are just early indications. Look, early voting, whatever.
We don't know anything.
But the early indications are that this big gamble they made may not work out. And if you want a reason why, you just go down the litany of the issues that Willie and I just listed, is that they could not reorient the campaign to something a little less offensive at the end.
Willie.
Yeah, and Caddy, obviously what we're seeing here very clearly is Donald Trump just drilling down deeper on his base.